I'd like to ask a couple of questions to just clarify, because I think one big problem in the Arab world is, and one way they use to oppress women, okay, is by using Islam. For example, when they say, al-mar'a habl al-shaytan, hadiths like that. When they say, well, we don't have to have a reason for polygamy. We can just marry. We don't have to answer to you. We can just marry whoever we want. When they say, well, most women are going to hell. When they say, example, if God said if he would have anyone bow to anyone other than him, it would be your husband. So all these things kind of...
They're used as means of manipulating and controlling. The Prophet ﷺ said, I've been made to love from this world women sent and the delight of my eye and my prayer. And his statement, loving from the world women, has nothing to do with lust. He loved the qualities that women embody. And the Prophet ﷺ, I mean, he loved their riqqa, you know, the gentleness and the fact that they wept easier than men. All those aspects, rahmah, the fact that it's a source of rahmah in the world. The fact that women are the source of ensoulment. Our souls come into the world through the womb. I mean, that's where we entered the world as a soul that Allah has created to be eternal, you know, to be infinite. So the Prophet ﷺ loved those. There are many beautiful hadiths. Unfortunately, those hadiths are all ignored for about 6 hadiths. I mean, somebody actually identified them. There's about 6 hadiths that would be problematic. Most of those hadiths, for me, there are interpretations of them, and we can go into apologetics, which I really don't want to go into that right now, but I totally agree with you that these hadiths are used to manipulate. When we asked Dr. Hiba in Egypt about, you know, مَا خَرَجَتْ إِمْرَأَةٌ مِنْ بَيْتِهَا إِلَّا اسْتَشْرَفَهَا الشَّيْطَانِ, that a woman doesn't come out of her house except shaitan will cause her, you know, to appear to the men. She said, طيب, beware, men, you know, get over it, you know. Lower your eyes, just be aware that you're attracted to women, and you have to deal with that. Be aware that that's, you know, look at in politics, how do men scandalize themselves in politics? Money, sex. So men have a problem. It's a problem, and there's a warning there. It's not that a woman's shaitan or that she's manipulated by shaitan. No, it's that men, the Prophet ﷺ said, I haven't left a seduction more dangerous for my ummah, for my men, than the women. So it's just a warning. Be warned. Don't be alone with a woman. Lower your gaze. Don't objectify her sexually. Those are all the teachings of Islam. So to me, it's just looking at men as they are, and dealing with the fact that, yes, men do have some problems in those areas, and if they don't learn to control those problems, they're going to be in a very compromised situation, and dangerous. But I mean, I saw a study in the U.S. They did a study where they had women, a young woman, attractive woman, go to men at a university, and they would invite them back to their apartment. Almost all the men, let's go. And then they did the same thing with an attractive young man, went to the women, and none of the women is like, you know, it's like, so there, I mean, there's a real difference. And that's the point. If you don't have some internal mechanisms that are preventing you, you know, from just becoming a shahwani, from becoming bestial, I mean, that to me is what those are about. They're just warning men, and to respect the women. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La yuhinuhunna illa la'im." You know, nobody degrades a woman except a degraded man. You know, I mean, that in itself is a proof of that he's degraded. The fact that he degrades a woman, that he objectifies her, that he sees her as a sexual object, that he sees her as you know, mata'. That's all there is. You know, so I think. It's a real problem in the understanding.
It's true, it's a warning to men. But what I realize, and I think this is partly what I understand your comment was, is that the responsibility has become totally on the woman.
I know.
And they keep on forcing these.
The Quran is very clear that it's the onus is on both. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغْضُوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze. Tell the believing women to lower their gaze. وَحَفْظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. At the root of Islam is equity. It's really about adala. It's about justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's just, and He says His deen is just. And I think, I mean, I totally submit to the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I recognize that much of what we call the Sharia it's human attempts at understanding principles, divine principles. So there is a lot of room. I mean, there are different fuqaha, there are different opinions, there are different views. And if we don't really begin to recognize that there is a diversity of opinion, it's a real problem. When I really believe that my way of understanding Islam is the only way, that is so alien to the Islamic tradition. It's a much deeper tradition than that. But we need, I really think we need women to seriously study the Sharia, to learn the Sharia at a deep level, and
we've met some of them.
We have met some of them, and I think that there's just, it's an exciting time in that the possibilities for women in some ways have never been greater in the history of Islam. The onus is on people to become more educated in their religion. You know, I think a lot of us are at the mercy of whoever our source of knowledge is, and sometimes the sources of knowledge are not very broad-minded. They're taking very constricted views about the Sharia. And Ibn Uyayna radiallahu anhu said, "Al-fiqhu rukhsatun an thiqa, wa amma tashdid fayahsinuhu kullu ahad." That real fiqh is making things easier by trustworthy sources. As for being harsh, anybody's good at that. You know, anybody can make things hard on people. And so the real spirit of Sharia is that muruna and that flexibility and sa'a. On the other hand, you don't want the thing just to unravel to where you don't. That's what happened to the Christians. You know, they don't have a religion anymore because they just kept compromising and compromising until the whole thing just fell apart. If you study Islamic history, what you'll find is women have always worked. Women have been in the fields, they've been in commerce, they've been in, I mean, just in all, you study the tabaqat literature and you'll see the women were in all fields of endeavor. In bourgeois societies, historically, women were in the homes. You know, that's whether you're in the West. In the West, in Britain, women have always worked. I mean, women, look at all the pictures in the 19th century of those women in those factories sewing and doing those things. Women have always worked, but it was the lower class women that worked. The upper class women had garden parties and sat around drinking tea and talked about how wonderful it was that they didn't have to work in the factory. You know, that's always existed. Now what's happened is there's a lot of people have interpreted Islam, you know, what I would call bourgeois Islam, and tried to apply it to everybody. So there's a lot, I think, of just really misinterpretation based on trying to universalize particular situations, to say this applies to all Muslims at all times. It's just not true. And so I think in terms of role, these are very dangerous things. I've read untold number of books on women in Islam and blah, blah, blah. I hate those books. But, you know, they always say the primary role of women is for childbirth. Where is that? Where is that in the Quran? I've never seen that. I've never seen a hadith that says that, the primary role of a woman. The primary role of a woman is to know her Lord, just like the primary role of a man is to know his Lord. I mean, there's no difference. مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Al-ins there is men and women. I created them to know me. If you look at the Quran, there are verses in the Quran that clearly talk about musawat, that men and women are the same. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. I mean, those verses are just, they're all the same. And then there are verses that talk about the takamuliyah, that men and women, ba'duhum min ba'd, you know, they need each other. You know, awliya. You know, they help each other. And then there's verses that talk about the differences, that there are differences. The wet nursing, the menstruation, the iddah. You know, I mean, the iddah is a female situation, not a male situation. The inheritance. You know, so there are verses that talk about these differences, and those are the verses in which you can determine the Quranic worldview about male-female roles. But that's the limit of it. Everything else, I mean, male and females can all do the same things and are capable of the same things. I mean, there's no There's no difference in that way. Aisha was one of the most important fuqaha of the early period. And the tradition says, take half of your religion from this light, fair-skinned woman. You know, and the Sahaba went to her in really difficult questions. And some of the Sahaba considered her actually the most knowledgeable of all the Sahaba. There are male Sahaba that considered Aisha to be the most knowledgeable of all the Sahaba after the Prophet ﷺ. So she had that role. She led an army. So I appreciate all of you allowing us this opportunity to share your thoughts and allow me to share my thoughts. I hope it's been useful. And may Allah give you tawfiq and patience, and also guide you in what you're trying to do, and make bring your works to a good fruition, inshallah, something that Allah and His Messenger are pleased with. So thank you very much, and jazakumullah khair.
We usually end our lectures with a dua. Sherry, would you please make a dua?
Or Sheikh Hamza make a dua. Sheikh Hamza maybe make a dua.
I just did. وفقكم الله إن شاء الله وبارك الله في جهودكم وسدد خطاكم وإن شاء الله اللهم اجعل عملهن عملا يرضيك ويرضي رسولك صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.